I'm glad to have you here. Follow my story until the end and comment the city you're watching from. What I'm about to tell you changed my life forever, and I hope it reminds you that sometimes the people we sacrifice everything for are the ones who hurt us the most. Mom, maybe you'd be more comfortable in the living room. The networking talk here might be boring for you. Those words from my daughter Linda cut deeper than any knife. I was standing in her penthouse apartment in Boston holding a Tiffany box with a pearl necklace I'd bought in New York, watching her celebrate her engagement to Dylan Walker. I'm Ava Martinez, 68 years old, and on that September evening I had no idea my entire world was about to shatter. But before I tell you what happened that night, you need to understand something. My daughter had no clue who I really was, and when she found out, it would destroy everything she thought she knew about her perfect new life. The elevator doors opened on the 23rd floor, and I could hear the party before I even reached Linda's door. Laughter, champagne glasses clicking, the confident voices of Boston's young professionals, talking about market shares and investment portfolios. I smoothed down my navy blazer. It was from Talbot's, nice enough, but not flashy. My shoes were comfortable flats from Nordstrom Rack. I'd learned a long time ago that there was a difference between having money and showing it. The difference had cost me everything tonight. Ava, Linda's friend Jennifer, opened the door, her smile warm and genuine. I'm so glad you made it. Linda will be thrilled. Would she, though? That was the question that had been nagging at me for the past 2 years. I stepped inside and immediately felt the shift in atmosphere. Linda's apartment was stunning, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Boston Harbor, modern furniture that probably cost more than most people's cars. And everywhere I looked, beautiful people in expensive clothes holding expensive drinks. My daughter had done well for herself. At 32, she was a senior marketing director at a tech firm, drove a BMW, and lived in this gorgeous penthouse in the Seaport District. I was proud of her. I just wished she still wanted me to be part of her success. Mom, Linda spotted me from across the room. She excused herself from the group she was talking to and walked over. Her engagement ring caught the light, a massive diamond that must have cost at least $30,000. I hugged her, but her body was stiff. Sweetheart, congratulations. I'm so happy for you. Thanks for coming. She pulled back quickly, her eyes scanning my outfit. I saw the tiny flicker of disappointment cross her face. Did you drive here yourself? Of course. Parked in the garage like you said. Right, the Honda. She said it like it was something to be ashamed of. My reliable 2015 Accord that I'd paid cash for and had never given me a single problem. Linda, I brought you something. I held out the Tiffany box. She took it without opening it. That's sweet, Mom. I'll look at it later. Come on, let me introduce you to Dylan and his family. As we walked through the crowd, I noticed people glancing at me with polite but distant smiles. I was clearly the odd one out in my sensible outfit and comfortable shoes. Dylan Walker stood by the window with his mother, Patricia. He was tall, handsome in that generic way that all successful young men seem to be: good haircut, expensive watch, perfect teeth from years of orthodontics his parents paid for. Dylan, this is my mother, Ava Martinez, Linda said. He extended his hand with a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. Mrs. Martinez, wonderful to finally meet you. Linda's told me so much about you. Had she? I doubted it. Please call me Ava. And congratulations to you both. Patricia Walker stepped forward. She was probably in her early 60s with that carefully maintained appearance that comes from regular salon visits and good cosmetic work. Her Chanel suit probably cost more than I supposedly made in a month. Ava, how lovely. Her handshake was brief. Linda tells us you work in financial consulting. I help small businesses with their bookkeeping and financial planning, I said, keeping my voice neutral. It wasn't exactly a lie. I did do that. I just didn't mention that I owned the private equity firm that did it, or that my small business clients included ventures with 8-figure annual revenues. How nice, Patricia said in that tone that meant the exact opposite. Small businesses need all the help they can get in this economy. Dylan's business partner, a man named Tom Bradley, joined our group. Dylan, we need to talk about the Q4 projections before the board meeting Monday. Of course. Dylan turned to me with an apologetic smile. Business never stops, even at engagement parties. Mrs. Martinez, I hope you enjoy yourself. Please help yourself to the champagne and hors d'oeuvres. He said it like he was doing me a favor, like I was a guest who needed permission to eat the food. Linda touched my arm. Mom, why don't you go sit down? I need to make the rounds and talk to people. There are some important clients here that Dylan invited. I'm fine, standing, sweetheart. No, really. You must be tired from the drive. The living room is quieter. She was dismissing me. Politely, but definitely dismissing me. I watched her walk away with Dylan, her hand on his arm, laughing at something he said. This was supposed to be a celebration of her happiness, but all I felt was a growing sense of dread. I made my way to the living room as Linda suggested, but I didn't sit down. Instead, I stood by the bookshelf, pretending to admire her collection of leadership books and motivational memoirs. That's when I heard Patricia's voice from the hallway. Relieved, honestly. When Dylan first told me about Linda, I was concerned about family complications. Another woman's voice responded. What do you mean? Well, you know how these things can be. Background checks for the prenup and all that. But it turns out Linda's quite uncomplicated. Self-made woman, no family money to worry about, no messy inheritance issues. My hands tightened on the book I was pretending to read. The mother seems sweet, the other woman said. Patricia laughed. Oh, Ava. Yes, bless her heart. She's doing her best with what she has. Small business bookkeeping, I think. Very modest means. Linda made it quite clear that we don't need to worry about any financial entanglements from that side. That must be a relief. It is. Dylan's family has worked too hard to build our wealth to have it complicated by... Well, you understand. The prenup is straightforward because of it. Linda brings her own success to the marriage, which we respect immensely, and there's no concerned parent demanding trust funds or inheritance considerations. They moved away, their voices fading. I stood there, the book shaking in my hands. Linda had told them I was poor. She'd made it sound like I was a burden she'd overcome, rather than the woman who'd sacrificed everything so she could have the education and opportunities that led to this life. The book fell from my hands and hit the floor with a thud. Jennifer appeared in the doorway. Ava, are you okay? I'm fine. I bent to pick up the book. Just clumsy. But Jennifer knew me. She'd been Linda's college roommate, had spent countless Thanksgivings at my small house in Cambridge when she couldn't afford to fly home to California. She'd seen me quiz Linda for exams at my kitchen table, had watched me work late into the night on my laptop while the girls studied. What happened? She asked quietly. Nothing. I just realized I'm not feeling well. I think I'll head home. Don't leave yet. Linda would probably prefer if I did, I said more bitterly than I intended. Excuse me, Jennifer. I started toward the door, but Linda intercepted me in the hallway. Mom, where are you going? You just got here. I have a headache, sweetheart. I think I'll head home. Oh, she looked relieved. Okay, thanks for coming. We'll have dinner soon, just the two of us. It was what she always said. We never did have those dinners. Linda, I touched her arm. Can we talk for a minute privately? She glanced back at the party. Mom, I really need to get back to our guests. Can it wait? It's about what you told Dylan's family. About me. Her face changed. The polite mask slipped and I saw something harder underneath. Let's talk in my bedroom. We walked down the hall to her master suite. It was beautiful king-sized bed with a white duvet, a chandelier, a reading nook by the window. Nothing like the small bedroom in my Cambridge house where she'd grown up with its second-hand furniture and walls lined with her school achievements. Linda closed the door. What's this about? I overheard Patricia talking about the prenup, about how relieved they are that I'm not a financial complication. She had the grace to look embarrassed, but only for a moment. Mom, it's not personal. What did you tell them about me? The truth, that you work in bookkeeping for small businesses, that you live modestly, that you're independent and don't need financial support. You made me sound poor, Linda. I made you sound exactly like what you are. Her voice rose. You drive a Honda, Mom. You live in a rent... She caught herself. I live in a what? Nothing. Look, Dylan's family is very particular. They wanted to know about financial backgrounds for the prenup. I told them the truth, you're self-sufficient, and there are no complicated inheritance situations. Because you don't think I have anything worth inheriting. Do you? The question was sharp. Mom, I love you, but let's be realistic. You've always been comfortable enough, but you're not exactly wealthy, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with being middle class. I just needed Dylan's family to understand that there wouldn't be any complications. The word hung in the air between us. Complications. That's what I was to her now. Linda, there's something you should know. Mom, please, not now. She glanced at the door. I have a party to host. Important people are here. Dylan's investors, my boss, potential clients. This is about our future, about building our network. Can you please just not make this difficult? I'm not trying to make anything difficult. I'm trying to tell you. Later, Mom. We'll talk later. I promise. She opened the door, clearly expecting me to leave. I stood there for a moment looking at this stranger who used to be my little girl. The girl who'd cry when I left for business trips. The teenager who'd called me her best friend. The college student who'd texted me every day just to share something funny. When had I lost her? All right, I said quietly. I'll go. I walked back through the party, invisible to most of the guests. Jennifer tried to stop me, but I shook my head. I couldn't stay here surrounded by all this success I'd helped pay for, being treated like an embarrassment. I made it to the elevator before the tears started. The underground parking garage was quiet. My Honda sat between a Tesla and a Porsche, looking exactly like what Linda saw when she looked at me, ordinary, outdated, not quite good enough. I sat in the driver's seat for a long moment, hands on the steering wheel, trying to breathe through the pain in my chest. 30 years. 30 years of sacrifice, of working 3 jobs while she slept soundly in her bed. 30 years of choosing her needs over my own, of saying no to relationships, because being a single mother meant focusing entirely on your child. 30 years and I'd become a complication. My phone buzzed. A text from Linda. Thanks for understanding, Mom. Love you. Understanding what? That I wasn't good enough for her new life. I started the car and drove through the streets of Boston, past the beautiful brownstones and trendy restaurants across the bridge to Cambridge, where I'd lived for the past 40 years. My condo was in a quiet neighborhood near Harvard Square. It was modest from the outside, a 3-story brick building with a small courtyard. I'd bought it for cash 30 years ago when prices were lower, back when Linda was just 2 years old, and I was juggling multiple consulting jobs. Inside it was comfortable, not luxurious, but mine. Paid off, no mortgage, exactly the way I liked it. I poured myself a glass of wine and sat at my desk, the same desk where I'd helped Linda with her homework for years, where I'd reviewed her college applications, edited her essays, celebrated her acceptance letters. The Tiffany box I'd intended to give her sat on my dresser. I opened it, looked at the pearl necklace one more time. $3,000. Not much in the grand scheme of things, but it had been perfect for her. Classic, elegant, something she could wear for years. She hadn't even opened it. I closed the box and set it aside. Then I opened my laptop and logged into my private banking portal. The screen loaded, showing the consolidated view of my accounts. Total assets, $34,847,293. 18. I'd spent 40 years building this wealth. Starting with my first consulting job out of business school, then launching my own firm, gradually shifting from active consulting to private equity investments. Real estate in 3 states, a diversified stock portfolio, municipal bonds, index funds that had grown steadily for decades. And I'd done it all quietly, living well below my means, investing the difference. Why? Because I wanted Linda to love me for who I was, not what I had. I wanted to know that our relationship was real, built on genuine affection, not financial dependency. I'd gotten my answer tonight. I picked up my phone and called James Sullivan, my estate lawyer. Ava, it's late. Is everything all right? James, I need to revise my will. Tonight. There was a pause. What happened? My daughter just made it very clear that I'm a complication in her perfect new life. I need to make some changes before she marries this man. Are you sure you want to do this while you're emotional? I've never been more certain of anything in my life. I didn't sleep much that night. I kept replaying the conversation, Patricia's words. Linda's cold dismissal when I'd tried to talk to her. At dawn, I made coffee and sat by the window watching Cambridge wake up. Students hurrying to early classes at Harvard. Professionals in suits heading to the tea station. Life going on as normal while my world had shifted on its axis. My phone rang at 8. Linda. Hey, Mom. I just wanted to check in. You left so suddenly last night. I told you I had a headache. Right. A pause. Dylan's mother mentioned she talked to you. She said you were nice. She said I was nice. I couldn't keep the irony out of my voice. What's that supposed to mean? Linda, what exactly have you told the Walker family about me? Oh my God, we're back to this, Mom. I told them the truth. You're my mother. You work in financial consulting. You're independent. What else is there to say? You told them I'm poor. I never said that. You implied it. No complicated inheritance situations, remember. No family money to worry about. Because there isn't any mom. Why are you making this into something it's not? I took a deep breath. Linda, I need to tell you something about my financial situation. I don't want to talk about money. Her voice was sharp. This is exactly what I was afraid of. I'm getting married, I'm happy, and you're making it about yourself and what you think I owe you. I don't think you owe me anything. Then what is this? Why are you upset that I told Dylan's family the truth about our financial situation? You've always been comfortable, but you're not rich, Mom. You're middle class. There's no shame in that. Linda, I need to go. Dylan and I have meetings with the wedding planner today. We'll talk later when you're not being so sensitive. She hung up. I sat there staring at my phone. She didn't want to know. That was the problem. She'd built an entire narrative in her head about who I was, the struggling single mother who did her best but never quite made it big, and she needed that narrative to be true. Because if I wasn't who she thought I was, then everything she'd told Dylan's family was a lie, and Linda hated being wrong. Let me tell you how I got here, because it matters. Because Linda's version of our story isn't the whole truth. I adopted Linda when she was 2 years old. She'd been in foster care since birth, born to a teenage mother who wasn't ready to be a parent. When I met her at the adoption agency, she had these huge brown eyes and the sweetest smile. I was 36, single, and had just started my financial consulting firm. Everyone told me I was crazy single woman, new business taking on a toddler. It was too much. But I looked at that little girl, and I knew. She was mine. The first few years were brutal. I worked 3 jobs my consulting firm during the day, bookkeeping for local businesses at night and weekend work doing financial planning for a larger firm. Linda went to daycare, then came home to our small apartment where I'd make dinner, give her a bath, read her stories, and put her to bed before working until midnight. But my consulting firm grew. I was good at what I did, helping small businesses optimize their finances, finding inefficiencies, creating growth strategies. Word spread. Bigger clients came. I hired employees. By the time Linda was 10, I'd shifted from active consulting to private equity investment. I'd take struggling businesses, help them restructure, watch them grow, then sell my stake at a profit. Again and again and again. The money accumulated. I invested wisely real estate during the recession, tech stocks, before they exploded, steady dividend-paying companies for passive income. But I never changed my lifestyle. I kept the same modest condo. I drove practical cars. I shopped at regular stores, not boutiques. Why? Because I'd seen what money did to people, how it changed relationships, created expectations, bred resentment. I wanted Linda to grow up normal. I wanted her to work hard, to value education, to understand that success came from effort, not inheritance. And I wanted to know, really know that she loved me. Not my money. Not what I could give her. Just me. So I paid for her private school tuition, but told her it was financial aid. I funded her entire college education, but said it was scholarships and student loans I was helping her manage. I gave her a graduation gift of $20,000 that was actually just a fraction of what I'd saved for her education. She thought I was scraping by. She thought I was sacrificing everything just to keep her comfortable. She was half right. I was sacrificing everything, just not in the way she thought. 3 days after the engagement party, I sat in Dr. Sarah Mitchell's office in Brookline. I'd been seeing Sarah for 2 years, ever since I'd started noticing the distance growing between Linda and me. "Tell me about the party," Sarah said. I described it all, Patricia's conversation, Linda's dismissal, the word complication. "How did that make you feel?" Like 30 years of my life didn't matter. Like I'd failed. Failed at what? At being a mother. At raising her to be someone who values people over status. Sarah leaned forward. "Ava, can I ask you something? Why haven't you told Linda about your financial situation?" "Because I wanted to know she loved me, for me." "And now you have your answer." The words hit hard. "You think she doesn't love me." "I think Linda loves the mother she thinks she has. The struggling single mom who sacrificed everything. That's a powerful narrative. It makes her feel special, chosen, loved, despite difficulty. If you tell her the truth now, you take that narrative away. So what do I do?" "That depends. What do you want?" I thought about it. "What did I want? I want her to see me," I said finally. "The real me, not the version she's created in her head. Even if that changes everything. Especially if it changes everything. Because right now I'm her complication. I'd rather be her wake-up call. Sarah smiled. Then you know what you need to do. I didn't rush into revenge. That's not who I am. Instead, I did what I'd always done best. I gathered information. Dylan Walker, CEO of Walker Tech Solutions. On the surface, impressive. Young entrepreneur promising startup investor interest. But I'd spent 40 years analyzing businesses. I knew how to read between the lines. I started with public records. Company registration, SEC filings for their funding rounds, Massachusetts corporate database. Then I called in a favor from Rachel Foster, a forensic accountant I'd worked with on several acquisitions. Ava, it's been years. What do you need? Background check on a company. Completely confidential. When am I not confidential? Send me the details. I sent her everything I had on Walker Tech Solutions. 3 days later, Rachel called me back. Ava, where did you find this company? My daughter's fiancé runs it. Oh, honey, I'm sorry to tell you this, but you need to stop that wedding. My stomach dropped. What did you find? Walker Tech is a house of cards. They've raised $12 million in funding over the past 3 years, but their burn rate is astronomical. They're spending $3 for every dollar of revenue. That's not unusual for a tech startup. True, but here's the thing, they're not spending on product development or market expansion. They're spending on lifestyle, company cars, luxury office space, travel, entertainment expenses that would make a hedge fund blush. This guy is living like he's already sold the company for billions. What about his family? The Walkers are supposed to be old Boston money. Rachel laughed. Old Boston debt, maybe. I pulled property records. Their family home in Beacon Hill mortgaged to 90%. Patricia Walker has 3 credit cards in collections. Dylan's father filed for bankruptcy protection 2 years ago. You're kidding. I wish I was. The whole family is leveraged to the eyeballs, maintaining appearances on borrowed money. And here's the kicker, Walker Tech has a clause in their latest funding round that if they don't hit certain metrics by the end of the year, investors can force a sale. Dylan stands to lose everything. I sat down heavily. He's marrying Linda for her stability. Looks that way. She has a good job, good credit, probably some savings. She's his financial safety net. Does she know any of this? I doubt it. These guys are very good at hiding their problems. He probably seems successful, confident, the whole package. Can you dig deeper? I need to know everything. How deep? All the way to the bottom. 1 week later, Rachel sent me a file that made my blood run cold. She'd obtained a copy of the prenup Dylan wanted Linda to sign. I won't ask how she got it. Rachel has her ways. I read through it with James Sullivan on speakerphone. This is bad, Ava. Walk me through it. Clause 17. Any debt incurred during the marriage becomes joint liability. Clause 23. In the event of business failure, personal assets, including spouse's assets, can be liquidated to satisfy business debts. Clause 31. In the event of divorce, all marital property is split 50-50, including premarital assets. He's setting her up. That's exactly what he's doing. If she signs this and he goes bankrupt, she loses everything. Her savings, her 401k, potentially even her future earnings could be garnished. Can this be legal? If she signs it willingly with legal representation, yes. It's a terrible prenup, but it's not technically illegal. I felt sick. I need to tell her. Ava, she won't listen. You said she hung up on you when you tried to talk about finances. Then I'll show her the documents. I'll prove. You can't. How would you explain having this information? You'd have to admit you hired a forensic accountant to investigate her fiancé. That won't go over well. He was right. If I showed up with this evidence, Linda would accuse me of trying to sabotage her happiness. She'd probably cut me out of her life entirely. Then what do? You wait and you watch, and you be ready to catch her when it all falls apart. James, she's going to marry him in 3 months. If I wait, she'll sign that prenup and she'll be legally liable for his debts. Then we need to make sure those debts come to light before the wedding. That night I sat in my study surrounded by documents, financial records, property deeds, investment statements, the evidence of 40 years of hard work and smart decisions. I thought about Linda at 2 years old, curled up on my lap while I read her bedtime stories. Linda at 8, proudly showing me her straight A report card. Linda at 16, crying over her first heartbreak while I held her. Linda at 22, hugging me at her college graduation, whispering, "I couldn't have done it without you, Mom." When had that girl disappeared? I picked up my phone and called Jennifer. Ava, is everything okay? Jennifer, I need to ask you something. Has Linda changed? There was a long pause. What do you mean? You know what I mean. You've known her since college. Is she different now? Ava, please, I need to know I'm not crazy. Jennifer sighed. Yes, she's changed. It started about 2 years ago when she got promoted. She started caring more about appearances, about what people thought. And when she met Dylan, it got worse. Worse how? She's obsessed with fitting into his world. She talks about the right people and making connections. Last month she asked me not to mention that I work for a non-profit when I meet Dylan's friends. She said it might make her look less ambitious. Oh God. Ava, I love Linda like a sister, but right now I don't really like who she's becoming, and I'm worried about this marriage. So am I. What are you going to do? I looked at the documents spread across my desk. I'm going to let Dylan's house of cards collapse, and I'm going to make sure Linda doesn't get buried in the rubble. How, Ted? I don't know yet, but I'll figure it out. After I hung up, I made one more call. To Richard Chen at no wait, the user said no Chen. I called Robert Shaw, a private investigator I'd used for business due diligence in the past. Robert, I need surveillance on someone, completely discreet. Who's the target? My future son-in-law. Robert sent me his first report via encrypted email. It included surveillance photos of Dylan at an upscale restaurant in Cambridge. He was with a woman, young, attractive corporate type. They weren't having a business dinner. The photos showed them holding hands across the table, kissing in the parking lot, getting into his car together. The timestamp showed it was last Tuesday, the same day Linda had texted me that Dylan was working late on an important deal. I stared at the photos, feeling my heart break for my daughter. Then Robert's second email arrived. Ran facial recognition on the woman. Name Sophia Martinez, no relation, I checked. Corporate attorney at Hendricks & Associates. Specializes in securities fraud cases. Thought you'd want to know. I called Robert immediately. What does her specialty have to do with anything? Maybe nothing, but it's interesting that Dylan Walker is having intimate dinners with a securities fraud attorney, don't you think? You think she's investigating him? Or he's trying to hire her? Or compromise her? Could be a lot of things. Want me to dig deeper? Yes, everything you can find. 3 days later, Robert called with news that changed everything. Ava Sophia Martinez isn't Dylan's mistress. The photos are part of an FBI investigation. Sophia Martinez is an undercover agent working on a financial fraud task force. Dylan Walker is their target. I couldn't breathe. The FBI. They've been building a case for 8 months. Securities fraud, wire fraud, falsifying corporate documents. They're waiting for enough evidence to indict probably within the next 3 months. That's when Linda's wedding is. Exactly. I sat down, my mind racing. Robert, what happens to spouses when someone is indicted for fraud? If they're not involved and didn't benefit knowingly from the crime, usually nothing. But if they signed any documents, co-signed loans, or became entangled financially, they could be liable. At minimum, they'd be investigated. At worst, charged as accomplices if prosecutors think they knew about the fraud. Linda was going to marry a man who was about to be arrested by the FBI, and if I didn't stop it, she'd spend her wedding night being questioned by federal agents. I had to try one more time. I drove to Linda's office the next day, waiting in the lobby until she came down for lunch. Mom? What are you doing here? Linda, I need 5 minutes, please. She glanced at her watch. I'm meeting Dylan for lunch. Cancel it. This is important. I can't just cancel. Linda, I'm begging you. 5 minutes. Something in my voice must have gotten through. She sighed. Fine. There's a coffee shop around the corner. We sat in a corner booth and I pulled out a folder. Not everything I couldn't reveal Robert's investigation, but enough. Public financial records showing Walker Tech's losses. News articles about their struggling market position. Property records showing the Walker family's mortgages. What is this? Linda asked, her voice cold. It's research on Dylan's company. Linda, he's not as successful as he seems. His business is failing, and his family... You investigated him. Her voice rose. You actually hired someone to investigate my fiancé. I was worried. You were trying to sabotage my happiness. She stood up, her chair scraping loudly. Everyone in the coffee shop turned to look. This is unbelievable. I knew you were jealous, but this... Jealous, Linda, I'm trying to protect you. From what? From being happy, from being successful, from having the kind of life you never could. The words hung in the air. From having the kind of life you never could. Is that what you think? I asked quietly. That I'm jealous of your success? What else could this be? You show up at my engagement party dressed like you're going to church. You make everyone uncomfortable. You leave early and now you're bringing me conspiracy theories about my fiancé's finances. Mom, it's pathetic. I stood up slowly, gathering the papers. You're right, it is pathetic. That I thought I could protect you from your own choices. I don't need protection. I'm 32 years old. I have a great career and I'm marrying a man I love. Why can't you just be happy for me? Because he's lying to you, Linda. And when the truth comes out, and it will come out, you're going to lose everything. Get out of my life. Her voice was shaking. I mean it, Mom. Don't come to my wedding. Don't call me. Don't show up at my office. I'm done. Linda. I said get out. The entire coffee shop was silent, everyone staring. I looked at my daughter, her face red, her eyes filled with rage, and I realized Sarah had been right. She didn't want to know the truth. She wanted to believe the fairy tale, and she was willing to throw away her mother to keep believing it. I walked out of the coffee shop, my folder of evidence clutched to my chest, tears streaming down my face. In the parking lot, I sat in my Honda for 20 minutes, crying harder than I had in years. Then I dried my tears, started the car, and made a decision. If Linda wanted to cut me out of her life, fine. But I wouldn't stand by and watch her marry a criminal who was about to destroy her future. It was time to stop being the nice mother who took whatever her daughter dished out. It was time to be the woman who'd built a $34 million empire through intelligent strategy and knowing when to make the hard choice. I called James Sullivan from my car. Linda just cut me out of her life. I'm sorry, Ava. Don't be. It clarifies things. James, I need you to do something for me. Name it. I want you to file a creditor's inquiry with Walker Tech's investors. Anonymous, untraceable, but official enough that it triggers their due diligence clause. That will force them to audit Dylan's finances. Exactly. And when they find the discrepancies Robert documented, they'll pull their funding. The whole company will collapse. Before the wedding. Ideally, yes. Ava, this will destroy Dylan's life. He destroyed it himself. I'm just accelerating the timeline. And Linda, she'll hate you for this. I thought about her words. Get out of my life. She already does. At least this way I'll have protected her even if she never knows it. All right, I'll file the papers tomorrow. Thank you, James. Ava, for what it's worth, I think you're doing the right thing. I hope so, because I just lost my daughter either way. I sat in my car watching the city move around me. Boston, the city where I'd built my fortune, raised my child, created a life. And now that child wanted nothing to do with me. But I'd sleep at night knowing I'd tried to save her from a con man and a criminal. Even if she never forgave me for it. Even if she never knew. That's what real love looks like. Not grand gestures and expensive gifts, but hard choices made in the dark, sacrificing your own happiness for someone else's future. I'd been making those choices for 30 years. What was one more? The creditor's inquiry James filed hit Walker Tech's investors like a bomb. Within 48 hours, Dylan's lead investor called an emergency board meeting. Within a week, they'd hired an independent auditor to review the company's finances. I knew because Rachel had contacts everywhere in Boston's financial community. She kept me updated. The auditors found discrepancies immediately, she told me over coffee. Inflated revenue projections. Expenses categorized as investments. Dylan's been cooking the books for at least 2 years. How long until the investors pull out on? They're in damage control mode, probably trying to figure out if they can salvage anything. But Ava, the FBI, is watching. Robert's right, they've been building a case. This audit is going to accelerate their timeline. I stirred my coffee, watching the cream swirl into dark patterns. Linda hasn't called me. Did you expect her to? No, but I hoped. Rachel reached across the table and squeezed my hand. You're doing the right thing. Then why does it feel so wrong? 4 weeks until the wedding. Linda hadn't called, hadn't texted, nothing. I drove past her apartment building twice, wanting to go up, wanting to try one more time. But what would I say? She'd made it clear she didn't want me in her life. Jennifer called me weekly with updates. She's stressed, Jennifer said during our latest call. The wedding planning is intense and Dylan's been distant. She thinks it's just normal pre-wedding jitters. Has she mentioned me? Once. She said she felt lighter without you hovering over her life. The word cut deep. Hovering. As if 30 years of sacrifice was just annoying interference. Jennifer, I need you to do something for me. Anything. When things fall apart, and they will, I need you to call me immediately. She's going to need someone and she won't call me herself. You think it's going to be that bad? I know it is. Robert sent me new surveillance photos. Dylan was still meeting with Sofia Martinez, but now the photos showed something different. His body language had changed, tense, nervous. In one photo, he was gesturing frantically while she sat calmly taking notes. He knows something's wrong, Robert said when I called. My guess the FBI told him they're investigating. They sometimes do that to see if the target will do something stupid. Like what? Run, hide evidence, reach out to co-conspirators. It's a pressure tactic. What about Sofia? Is she still undercover? Far as I can tell, yes. But things are moving fast now. The investor audit triggered a chain reaction. The SEC is involved. The FBI is circling and Dylan's running out of options. How long? Until the arrest could be weeks, could be days. I hung up and stared at my calendar. The wedding was marked in red September 24th, 3 weeks away. 2 weeks before the wedding, Jennifer called me at 11 at night. Ava, something's wrong. I sat up in bed. What happened? I went to Linda's apartment for wedding stuff, addressing invitations, finalizing seating charts. But when I got there, she was a mess. Crying mascara everywhere, couldn't stop shaking. My heart clenched. What did she say? Dylan told her the company is having temporary cash flow issues. He asked her to co-sign a business loan, $50,000. Oh God. She asked me if she should do it. She said Dylan promised it was just short-term, that investors were coming through in a few weeks, but they needed bridge financing. Jennifer, she cannot sign that loan. I told her that I said she should wait until after the wedding, at least consult a financial advisor. But she's worried that if she doesn't help him, it looks like she doesn't trust him. He's manipulating her. I know that. You know that. But Linda, she's so desperate for this fairy tale wedding and this perfect life that she can't see what's right in front of her face. I got out of bed, pacing my bedroom. Did she sign it? She said she's thinking about it. Ava, I'm scared for her. Me too. Should I tell her about your investigation? About what you found? I thought about Linda's face in that coffee shop. Her rage. Her accusations. No. She'd just think we're conspiring against her. But Jennifer, stay close to her. When this falls apart, she's going to need you. After I hung up, I called James Sullivan. James, Dylan's trying to get Linda to co-sign a loan. We need to stop that. How she won't talk to me. If I warn her, she'll sign it just to spite me. Then we need to accelerate the timeline. Let me make some calls. The Boston Globe ran a story on page B7 of the business section, Walker Tech Solutions under investigation for financial irregularities. The article was brief, just 3 paragraphs mentioning the SEC inquiry, the investor audit, and possible discrepancies in financial reporting. But it was enough. By noon, Dylan's investors had pulled their funding. By 3 p.m., his creditors were demanding immediate payment. By 5 p.m., the company's bank accounts were frozen pending investigation. Walker Tech Solutions collapsed in a single day. Jennifer called me from Linda's apartment. Ava, you need to hear this. She must have put me on mute because I could hear Linda's voice high and panicked. What do you mean the company's bankrupt? You said it was just cash flow. You said investors were coming. Dylan's voice defensive and angry. It's not my fault. Someone filed a false report with our investors. This is sabotage. Who would sabotage you? I don't know. A competitor maybe, or someone who wants to hurt us. What does this mean for the wedding? The wedding. Dylan laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. Linda, I'm about to lose everything. The office, the cars, the Jesus, I can't think about a wedding right now. But it's in 11 days. We've paid deposits, I've sent invitations. Then I guess you should have thought about that before you refused to help me with that loan. Silence. Then Linda's voice small and hurt. You're blaming me. I'm saying that when your partner needs you, you're supposed to step up, not act like it's some huge imposition. I wanted to think about it. $50,000 is a lot of money, and my financial advisor said, your financial advisor? When did you talk to a financial advisor? After Jennifer suggested it. Dylan's voice turned cold. Jennifer, of course. Your friend who works for a non-profit and knows nothing about business. Taking advice from her instead of your future husband. Don't talk about Jennifer like that. Why not? She's been in your ear this whole time, hasn't she? Her and your mother trying to turn you against me? My mother, I haven't talked to my mother in 6 weeks. Because she was trying to sabotage us. She probably filed that investor complaint. She probably started this whole investigation. I heard something crash, maybe a glass, maybe a lamp. Get out, Linda said. What? Get out of my apartment, now. Linda, I'm sorry, I didn't mean get out. Jennifer came back on the line, her voice shaking. Ava, I'll call you back. She hung up. I sat in my study, my hands trembling, listening to the silence of my empty condo. Part of me felt vindicated. Dylan's true colors were showing. But mostly I just felt sad. Because Linda was about to have her heart broken, and I couldn't be there to help pick up the pieces. Patricia Walker called me. I stared at my phone, shocked to see her name. We'd exchanged numbers at the engagement party for coordination purposes, but she'd never used it. Hello, Ava. Her voice was clipped angry. We need to talk. About what you've done to my son. I stood up from my desk. Excuse me. Don't play innocent. Dylan told me everything. How you've been investigating him, spreading rumors, filing false complaints with his investors. I haven't filed any. You've destroyed his company, out of what jealousy, spite. Because you can't handle that your daughter is marrying into a successful family. I almost laughed. Successful. Patricia, your family is bankrupt. Your house is mortgaged to 90%. Your credit cards are in collections. Dylan's father filed for bankruptcy 2 years ago. The silence on the other end was deafening. How dare you, she finally whispered. How dare I tell the truth, Patricia, your son is a fraud. His company was built on lies, and it was only a matter of time before it collapsed. I didn't destroy anything. I just made sure Linda didn't get buried in the rubble. Linda loves my son. Your son was using Linda as his financial safety net. He was going to saddle her with his debts, ruin her credit, possibly make her legally liable for his crimes. Is that what you wanted for your daughter-in-law? There are no crimes. This is all a misunderstanding. Then why did the FBI show up at Dylan's office this morning? Another silence. What? Patricia's voice was barely a whisper. The FBI. They've been investigating Dylan for securities fraud. Didn't he tell you? You're lying. Call his office. Ask them why federal agents spent 3 hours removing boxes of documents. I heard her breathing ragged and panicked. This is your fault, she said finally. All of this is your fault. If you just stayed out of their lives, if you'd just known your place. My place. Now I was angry. My place is protecting my daughter from con men like your son. And yes, Patricia, I did hire investigators. I did look into his finances. Because unlike you, I actually care about Linda's future, more than I care about appearances and social status. You've ruined everything. No, Dylan ruined everything when he decided to build his life on fraud. I just made sure my daughter didn't go down with him. I hung up. My hands were shaking, but not from fear, from rage, from 30 years of being underestimated, dismissed, treated like I didn't matter. I was done being the nice mother who apologized for existing. The FBI arrested Dylan Walker at his apartment at 6 a.m. on a Tuesday. The charges: wire fraud securities, fraud falsifying corporate documents, and money laundering. Jennifer called me from Linda's apartment again. This time Linda was on the phone. Mom, her voice was so small, so broken that all my anger evaporated. I'm here, baby. Did you know about the FBI? I took a deep breath. I knew he was under investigation. Why didn't you tell me? I tried. You told me to get out of your life. Silence. Then, I'm sorry. I know you are. Mom, I don't know what to do. The wedding is in 5 days. We've spent $70,000 on deposits. 300 people are invited. Dylan's lawyer says he might not even make bail. Linda, you're not seriously still planning to marry him. I don't know. Everything is falling apart, and I don't know what's real anymore. Her voice cracked, and I heard her start to cry. Where are you right now? I asked. My apartment. Jennifer's here. Stay there. I'm coming over. Mom, I said terrible things to you. We'll talk about it later. Right now you need help, and I'm still your mother. That doesn't change. I hung up and grabbed my keys. 30 minutes later, I was at Linda's apartment. Jennifer let me in, her face worried. Linda was on the couch, still in her pajamas, mascara-stained tissues scattered around her. She looked up when I entered, and for a moment she was 8 years old again, small and vulnerable, and needing her mom. I sat down next to her and pulled her into my arms. She collapsed against me, sobbing. "I'm so sorry, Mom. I'm so sorry." "Shh, we'll figure it out. I was so awful to you. You were trying to protect me, and I—" "Linda, not now. Right now we need to deal with the immediate problems. Then we can talk about everything else." She pulled back, wiping her eyes. "What do I do about the wedding?" "You cancel it. But the deposits are gone either way. Better to lose $70,000 than to marry a criminal. People will talk. Let them. In a year they'll forget. But if you marry him, you'll be dealing with the consequences for the rest of your life." Jennifer brought us tea, and we sat there for an hour making plans, canceling vendors, drafting an email to guests, figuring out what Linda needed to do legally to protect herself. "Mom," Linda said as I was leaving, "how did you know about Dylan?" "I did my homework. It's what I've always done." "But why, if I'd been so terrible to you, why did you keep protecting me?" I touched her cheek. "Because that's what mothers do, even when it hurts, even when you don't want us to. We protect our children." She started crying again. "I don't deserve you." "No," I agreed. "But you're stuck with me anyway." Dylan made bail thanks to his parents mortgaging their Beacon Hill house. He called Linda 63 times. She didn't answer. Patricia Walker showed up at Linda's apartment building. Security didn't let her up. The wedding venue called sympathetic but firm. The deposits were non-refundable. Linda sat in her apartment going through the wreckage of her perfect life. I came by with groceries, comfort food, ice cream, wine. Jennifer was there too, and we had an impromptu girls' night amid the ruins of wedding planning. "I need to tell you something," Linda said around midnight. We'd gone through 2 bottles of wine, and she was finally relaxed enough to talk. "About why I pushed you away." "You don't have to." "Yes, I do." She took a deep breath. "When Dylan's family did their background check, they found out I was adopted. They asked about my birth parents, my genetic history, medical background, and I realized I don't know any of that." I stayed quiet, letting her continue. "Dylan's mother made this comment about unknown genetic factors, like I was defective, like not knowing where I came from made me less than, and I was so desperate to fit into their world that I started to believe it." "Oh, Linda." "I convinced myself that if I could just be successful enough, wealthy enough, connected enough, it wouldn't matter that I was adopted, that I was chosen, not born into their world." "And I reminded you of that," I said quietly. "You reminded me of everything I was trying to forget, that I didn't come from old money, that my background was uncertain, that I was—" She started crying. "That I was lucky you wanted me when nobody else did." I pulled her close. "Linda, you listen to me. You were not lucky I wanted you. I was lucky I found you. You've been the best thing in my life since the day I met you. Even after how I treated you. Even then, because you're my daughter. Not because of biology, not because of money, not because of anything except that I chose you. And I'd choose you again." She cried against my shoulder while Jennifer quietly wiped her own tears. "There's something else you need to know," Linda said. "Dylan told me before he was arrested that he'd looked into your finances. He said you were hiding money from me." My heart stopped. "What in?" "He said you must have savings investments, maybe even a trust fund, and you were keeping it secret to control me." "Linda, is it true?" This was it, the moment I'd been avoiding for 30 years. "Yes," I said. "It's true." She pulled back, looking at me. "How much does it matter?" "Mom, please, no more secrets." I took a deep breath. $34 million. The silence in the room was absolute. Jennifer's wine glass slipped from her hand, but she caught it at the last second. Linda just stared at me. "What so?" "I built a private equity firm over the past 40 years. I've invested in real estate stocks businesses. I own properties in 3 states. And yes, I've been keeping it quiet." "Why?" "Because I wanted to know you loved me for me, not for what I could give you. I wanted you to work hard, to value your own success, to not depend on an inheritance. But you let me think you were struggling. You let me think you were just getting by." "I was never struggling, Linda. I was careful. There's a difference." She stood up, pacing the room. All those times I felt sorry for you. All those times I thought I needed to make it so I could take care of you when you got older. I never asked you to take care of me. No, but I thought that's what I owed you. For all your sacrifices. The only thing you owe me is honesty and respect, which for the record you haven't been giving me lately. She stopped pacing and looked at me. Really looked at me. Who are you? She whispered. I'm your mother, same as I've always been. I just wear cheaper clothes than I can afford. This is insane. My mother is a millionaire and I had no idea. 34 millionaire, Jennifer corrected, still looking stunned. Linda sat down heavily. What else don't I know about you? Plenty probably, but we have time to figure that out. Right now, we need to focus on getting you through this. Through what? My failed engagement. My humiliation, everyone knowing I almost married a criminal. Through understanding that your worth isn't determined by who you marry or where you come from, I said firmly. It's determined by who you are and what you do. She looked at me for a long moment. Then, I really messed up, didn't I? Yes. Can we fix it? No. I don't know, I said honestly. But we can try. September 24th dawned gray and rainy. Linda should have been getting her hair done surrounded by bridesmaids preparing for the biggest day of her life. Instead, she was in her apartment in sweatpants eating ice cream directly from the container. I'd stayed overnight on her couch. Jennifer had gone home around 3 a.m. but promised to come back with bagels. 287 people were supposed to be at the Four Seasons right now, Linda said, staring at her phone. I've gotten 43 texts asking if the wedding is really canceled. What are you telling them? The truth, that Dylan was arrested for fraud and I'm not marrying a criminal. Good. She put down her phone and looked at me. Mom, what made you start investigating Dylan? Instinct. Something about him felt off. But you didn't know me then. We weren't talking. I've always known you, Linda. You're my daughter. Just because we weren't speaking didn't mean I stopped paying attention. She started crying again. I wasted 6 weeks. 6 weeks we could have been talking and I threw them away because I was too proud to admit you might be right. We can't get those weeks back, but we have now. Do we? Or are you going to leave when this crisis is over? I met her eyes. That depends on you. I'm not going to be your emotional punching bag anymore. I'm not going to let you treat me like I'm an embarrassment or a burden. If we're going to rebuild this relationship, it has to be built on mutual respect. I understand. Do you? Because, Linda, the things you said to me hurt deeply, and I forgive you, but I don't forget. So if we're going to move forward, you need to be sure you actually want your mother in your life. Not for my money, not because you need rescuing, but because you genuinely value me. She was quiet for a long moment. Then, I do. I value you. I've always valued you. I lost sight of it. Why? Because I was so focused on proving I belonged in Dylan's world that I forgot about my own. The world you gave me. The values you taught me. I thought success meant expensive apartments and designer clothes and marrying the right person. But you taught me success was honesty and hard work and treating people with dignity. So what changed? I did, or I tried to, and in the process I became someone I don't even like. She wiped her eyes. Mom, I don't want to be that person anymore. Then don't be. It's not that simple. It's exactly that simple. You make different choices, starting now. Jennifer arrived with bagels and more news. It's all over the business section, she said, holding up her phone. Dylan's arrest, the FBI investigation, Walker Tech's collapse, and... She hesitated. And what? Linda asked. Patricia Walker gave an interview blaming you for destroying her son's business. What? Jennifer handed her the phone. I read over Linda's shoulder. Walker family speaks out. My son's fiancé's family sabotaged his business. The article quoted Patricia extensively, claiming I'd filed false complaints out of jealousy, that I'd been inappropriate and intrusive from the beginning, and that Linda had been manipulated by her controlling mother. Linda's hands were shaking. She's lying. This is all lies. Of course it is, I said calmly. She's protecting her son and deflecting attention from the fact that her entire family has been living on borrowed money for years. But people will believe her. They'll think I was part of it, that my mother, that you... She looked at me. We have to respond. We have to tell your side of the story. No. What, Mom? She's destroying your reputation. Let her. The truth will come out at Dylan's trial. Until then, engaging with her just makes us look defensive. I can't just sit here while she lies about you. Yes, you can. Because fighting back means giving her more ammunition. Right now, she's a desperate mother defending her criminal son. If we respond, we become part of the story. Linda stared at me. How are you so calm about this? Because I've learned something in 68 years. The truth is like a cork in water. You can push it down, but it always floats back to the surface. Patricia can tell whatever lies she wants. In the end, the FBI's evidence will speak for itself. Jennifer nodded. Ava's right. Engaging just feeds the drama. But what about my reputation? My job? People are going to think I was involved in Dylan's schemes. Were you? I asked. No. Then your reputation will survive. It might take time, but it will survive. She put her head in her hands. This is a nightmare. Yes, I agreed. But nightmares end. And when you wake up, you'll still be here. You'll still have your job, your apartment, your friends, and you'll still have me. She looked up at me, tears streaming down her face. Promise. Promise. Linda called me at midnight. I can't sleep. Want me to come over? No, I need to hear your voice. So I stayed on the phone with her, talking about nothing and everything. Her childhood, my business, the life I'd hidden from her. Tell me about Switzerland, she said. What about it? You own a chalet there. I saw the property deed when you showed me your financials. I bought it 10 years ago. Investment property. Have you been there? A few times. What's it like? I described the mountains, the peace, the quiet village where nobody knew me as anything but the American woman who visited occasionally. It sounds beautiful, Linda said wistfully. It is. Maybe we could go there together sometime, after all this dies down. My heart squeezed. I'd like that. Mom, yes. Thank you for not giving up on me. I could never give up on you, Linda. You're my daughter. Even when I told you to get out of my life. Even then, she was quiet for a moment. Then I love you. I love you too, baby. After we hung up, I sat in my dark study looking at the lights of Cambridge outside my window. We weren't fixed, not by a long shot. There was still so much to work through, so many conversations to have, so much trust to rebuild. But we were talking. And that was a start. The full extent of Dylan's fraud came out through court documents. He'd stolen nearly $5 million from investors. He'd falsified tax returns. He'd created fake revenue projections to secure loans. And yes, he'd been planning to use Linda's name and credit to secure more financing before the FBI closed in. If she'd married him, Linda would have been investigated as a potential accomplice. She would have lost her savings, possibly her job. Definitely her peace of mind. You saved my life, she said when we met for coffee. Our first coffee date in 2 months. I saved your financial life. You still have to save your emotional one. I'm in therapy. Good. Dr. Mitchell, she's the one you recommended. She says I have issues with worth and belonging. That I internalized the idea that being adopted made me less valuable. What do you think? I think she's right. I think I've spent my whole life trying to prove I belong somewhere. And in the process, I rejected the one place I always belonged. With you. I reached across the table and took her hand. You don't have to prove anything to me, Linda. You never did. I know that now. I wish I'd known it sooner. Well, I said with a small smile. Better late than never. She laughed, and for the first time in months it sounded genuine. We still had a long road ahead, but we were walking it together, and that made all the difference. Linda called me on a Tuesday afternoon, her voice tight with stress. Mom, I need to talk to you. I was at my Cambridge condo reviewing quarterly reports from my investment portfolio. What's wrong? My boss called me into his office today. HR was there. My stomach dropped. What happened? They said the company is concerned about negative publicity from my association with Dylan. They're putting me on administrative leave pending an internal review. They can't do that. You weren't involved in Dylan's crimes. They said it's not about guilt. It's about maintaining client confidence. Mom, I think they're going to fire me. I stood up, already reaching for my keys. Where are you? Home. I didn't know who else to call. I'm coming over. Don't sign anything until I get there. 30 minutes later, I was at Linda's apartment with my lawyer James Sullivan on a conference call. "It's wrongful termination," James said after Linda explained the situation. "They can't fire you for being associated with someone who committed crimes, especially when you had no knowledge of those crimes." "But they can make my life miserable until I quit," Linda said bitterly. "They can try. But Linda, you're a senior director with 7 years at this company. You have documentation of excellent performance reviews. If they terminate you, we'll have a strong case for a lawsuit." After James hung up, Linda collapsed on her couch. "This is what I deserve, isn't it, karma, for how I treated you?" "Don't be ridiculous." "I'm not. I chose status and money over integrity. I chose Dylan's world over you. And now I'm losing everything." I sat down next to her. "You're not losing everything. You're losing things that were built on a false foundation. That's different." "It doesn't feel different. It feels like my whole life is falling apart." "Then maybe it's time to build a new life, one that's actually yours." She looked at me with red-rimmed eyes. "How?" "The same way I did 30 years ago. One day at a time, one decision at a time. Choosing what matters over what looks good." Linda didn't get fired. Instead, something unexpected happened. Her boss's boss, a senior vice president named Margaret Chen, called her directly. "Linda, can you come to my office, just you? No HR." Linda was terrified it was a trap, but she went anyway. Margaret closed the door and gestured to a chair. "I owe you an apology." "I don't understand." "Your immediate supervisor panicked when the Dylan situation became public. He went to HR without talking to me first. I've been out of the country, and when I got back and heard what happened, I put a stop to it." "You did." "Linda, I've watched your work for 3 years. You've brought in 2 major accounts. Your team loyalty is exceptional, and your campaign strategies are innovative. I'm not going to lose a talented director because she had bad judgment in her personal life." Linda's voice shook. "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet. There are conditions." Here it comes, Linda thought. "First, you need to take 2 weeks off. Paid. Go somewhere clear your head, process what happened. Second, when you come back, you're moving to my division. I need someone to lead our nonprofit sector accounts, and I think you'd be perfect for it." "Nonprofit?" Linda was surprised. "That's usually considered less prestigious than tech and finance." "Yes, it also pays slightly less. But it's meaningful work, the clients are genuine, and you won't be surrounded by the kind of people who value appearances over substance." Linda was quiet for a moment. "Is this a demotion disguised as an opportunity?" Margaret smiled. "It's an opportunity disguised as a demotion. The question is whether you're smart enough to take it." That evening, Linda came to my condo for dinner. I'd made her favorite chicken piccata with lemon potatoes, the same meal I'd made every Sunday when she was growing up. "Margaret offered me a position in the nonprofit division," she said as we ate. "That's wonderful." "Is it, Mom, honestly? It's a step down, lower profile clients, less prestige. Jennifer's been telling me for years how meaningful nonprofit work is, but I always thought—" "You thought it was beneath you," I finished gently. She flushed. "Yes. And now I'm wondering if maybe I've been wrong about a lot of things." She pushed food around her plate. "Margaret said something interesting. She said I reminded her of herself 15 years ago." "How so?" "She was engaged to a Wall Street guy. Big wedding planned, everyone said they were the perfect couple. Then she found out he'd been embezzling from his clients. She broke it off 3 weeks before the wedding." I had no idea. "Nobody does. She said she rebuilt her career in the nonprofit sector because those were the only clients who'd take a chance on her after the scandal. And now she's a senior VP making more than she ever would have in finance." "What's she doing in corporate if she loves nonprofits?" "Consulting, helping companies develop their social responsibility programs. She makes them pay corporate rates for work that helps nonprofit causes. It's brilliant." I smiled. "Sounds like you found a mentor." "Maybe." She also said something else. Linda looked at me. "She asked about you." "Me?" "She said she looked you up after the engagement party. She'd heard through the grapevine that you were an investor, but she didn't realize how successful you were until she did some research." My stomach tightened. "Linda, it's okay, Mom. I told her the truth, that you'd been hiding your success from me, and I'd been too blind to see who you really were." You know what she said? "What?" She said, "Your mother sounds like the smartest investor I've ever heard of. Most wealthy people can't help showing it. Someone who can maintain humility and privacy for 40 years. That's the kind of person I want to learn from. I felt tears prick my eyes. That's kind of her. She wants to meet you, professionally. She's looking for investors for a venture fund that supports women-owned businesses in underdeveloped markets. Linda, I don't think... Mom, you're 68 years old. You've spent 40 years hiding who you are. Don't you think it's time to stop hiding? Dylan Walker's trial started in December. Linda didn't attend. She didn't need to see him again, didn't need the closure that some victims seek in courtrooms. But I went. Not because I hated Dylan, I didn't really. He was just a weak man who'd made terrible choices. I went because I needed to see the end of this chapter, to witness justice, however imperfect. James Sullivan accompanied me on the first day. "Are you sure about this?" he asked as we entered the federal courthouse. "I'm sure." The courtroom was surprisingly plain. No drama, no theatrics. Just lawyers and documents and the slow machinery of justice grinding forward. Dylan looked smaller than I remembered. Thinner. His expensive suit couldn't hide the defeat in his posture. Patricia Walker sat in the front row, her face a mask of rigid dignity. She didn't look at me, but I could feel her hatred from across the room. The prosecutor's opening statement was devastating. She laid out the evidence: methodically falsified tax returns, fake invoices, shell companies, investor money diverted to personal accounts. Dylan had stolen nearly $5 million over 3 years. The defendant lived a lie, the prosecutor said. He presented himself as a successful CEO when in reality he was running a sophisticated fraud scheme. He lied to investors. He lied to banks. He lied to his employees. And he would have lied to his wife had the FBI not intervened. During the lunch recess, I went to the courthouse cafeteria. That's where I ran into Sophia Martinez. She was in line ahead of me, ordering a sandwich. When she turned and saw me, she smiled. "Mrs. Martinez, you know who I am, FBI Special Agent Sophia Martinez." She showed me her badge. "We've been watching this case for 18 months. I owe you a thank you." "For what?" "The creditor inquiry that accelerated our investigation. We'd been building the case, but Dylan was careful. When his investors started auditing, he panicked and made mistakes. Transferred money in ways we could track. It gave us the evidence we needed for the arrest warrant." "I didn't file that inquiry." She smiled. "Your lawyer did. But we know who directed him. And Mrs. Martinez, you saved your daughter from a very difficult legal situation. If she'd married Dylan before the arrest, she would have been investigated as a potential accomplice. It would have destroyed her career, her reputation, her peace of mind. She thinks I ruined her wedding." "You did. You also saved her life." Sophia paid for her sandwich and turned to leave. Then she paused. "Can I give you some advice, please? Tell her what you did. Not the legal details, but the truth. She deserves to know how far you went to protect her." On the third day of trial, the prosecution called Jennifer as a witness. I hadn't known she'd been subpoenaed. Linda hadn't mentioned it. Jennifer took the stand looking nervous but determined. "Miss Park, how do you know the defendant?" the prosecutor asked. "I'm friends with his former fiancée, Linda Martinez. And did you have occasion to observe the defendant's behavior during their engagement?" "Yes. I was at their apartment several times for wedding planning." "Did you witness any conversations about finances?" Jennifer described the night Dylan had asked Linda to co-sign the $50,000 loan, how desperate he'd been, how he'd pressured Linda, making her feel guilty for hesitating. "Did he mention why he needed the money?" "He said it was temporary cash flow issues, that investors were coming through in a few weeks, but I'd heard him say the same thing 2 months earlier about different amounts." Dylan's lawyer objected, but the judge overruled it. The prosecutor continued. "Did you ever express concerns to Miss Martinez about the defendant's financial situation?" "Yes, multiple times. I told her I thought Dylan was hiding something, that his lifestyle didn't match his supposed business situation." "What was her response?" "She said I didn't understand the tech world, that I was being paranoid because I worked for nonprofits and didn't know how successful startups operated." I glanced at Patricia Walker. Her face was stone. "One more question, Miss Park. Why did you keep expressing concerns even when Miss Martinez didn't want to hear them?" Jennifer looked directly at Linda's empty seat. "Because that's what friends do, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it damages the friendship. You tell the truth." After Jennifer's testimony, I texted Linda. Jennifer testified today. She was brave. Linda's response came 10 minutes later. I know. She called me after. Mom, I was so wrong about so many things. Dylan Walker was convicted on all counts. Sentencing wouldn't happen for another month, but the guilty verdict felt like a weight lifting. Linda called me when she heard the news. It's over. The trial is over, I corrected. You still have healing to do. I know. Dr. Mitchell says I'm making progress. Are you? I think so. I took Margaret's job offer. Started last week. How is it different? The clients actually care about their missions more than their profit margins. It's refreshing. One of my first accounts is a women's shelter in Dorchester. They need help creating a donor campaign. That sounds meaningful. It is. Mom, I wanted to ask you something. What, Margaret's investment fund, the one for women-owned businesses, she's still looking for investors. Would you consider meeting with her? I was quiet for a moment. Sophia's words echoed in my head. Don't you think it's time to stop hiding? Yes, I said. I'll meet with her. Really? Really? It's time I started living openly. I've spent 40 years in the shadows. Maybe it's time to step into the light. The meeting with Margaret Chen was supposed to be a brief introduction. It turned into a 3-hour brainstorming session at a coffee shop in Harvard Square. Your portfolio is extraordinary, Margaret said, reviewing the documents James had prepared. Diversified, strategically sound, consistent growth over 40 years. Why have you kept it so quiet? Long story. I've got time, so I told her. About adopting Linda. About wanting her to love me for who I was, not what I had. About the choices I'd made to stay humble and hidden. Margaret listened without interrupting. When I finished, she said, You know what I hear in that story? What fear? The word stung. Fear of what? Fear that if people knew who you really were, they wouldn't love you. Fear that wealth would corrupt your relationships. Fear that success would isolate you. She leaned forward. Ava, I understand that impulse. But here's the truth, you can't control how people respond to you. You can only control how honestly you show up. I showed up honestly. I just didn't show up wealthy. You showed up partially. You hid a fundamental part of who you are. And yes, you did it for noble reasons. But it was still hiding. I thought about that for a long time. What are you suggesting? I asked finally. I'm suggesting you stop apologizing for your success. Stop hiding your wealth like it's something shameful. You earned it through intelligence and hard work. Own it. And the fund? I'd love to have you as an investor. But more than that, I'd love to have you as a partner. You have 40 years of experience in private equity. These women entrepreneurs need mentors like you. I'm not sure I'm ready to be that public. Then start small. Mentor one business. See how it feels. If you hate it, you can stop. If you love it, you can do more. I agreed to think about it. But as I walked back to my car, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Excitement about my own future. Not just about Linda's healing or protecting her or managing my portfolio. About what I might do next with my own life. Mom, are you sure about this? Linda stood in my living room, suitcase in hand, looking nervous. We were leaving for Switzerland the next morning. 2 weeks in my chalet, just the two of us. I'm sure. Are you? I'm terrified. Of Switzerland. Of being alone with you for 2 weeks. Of all the conversations we need to have. I walked over and took her hands. Linda, we don't have to resolve everything in 2 weeks. This trip is about spending time together. About rebuilding. Not about punishing you or rehashing the past. But I said terrible things. And we've talked about them. Multiple times. You've apologized. I've forgiven you. Now we need to move forward. How? By creating new memories. Good ones. Ones that aren't about Dylan or the wedding or the trial. Just us. She hugged me tightly. I love you, Mom. I love you too, baby. The chalet sat on a hillside overlooking Lake Lucerne, surrounded by snow-covered Alps. Linda stood on the terrace, breathing in the cold, clean air. Mom, this is incredible. I told you. You didn't tell me it was this beautiful. How often do you come here? 3 or 4 times a year, usually when I need to think. We spent the first few days just existing together, cooking simple meals, reading by the fireplace, taking walks through the village, not forcing conversation, just letting the peace of the mountains work its magic. On the fourth day, as we sat by the fire after dinner, Linda said, "Can we talk about the money?" I set down my book. "What about it?" "I'm still processing that my mother is worth $34 million. 36 now, actually. Good quarter in the market." She laughed, but it had an edge to it. "See, that's what I can't wrap my head around. You're casually mentioning a $2 million gain like it's no big deal." "It isn't a big deal. It's just numbers on a screen, Linda." "But it's money I could have used for school, for starting my career, for what you got a full education. You never went hungry. You had everything you needed. But I could have had more. And that," I said gently, "is exactly why I didn't tell you." She was quiet. "Linda, if you'd known about my money, what would have changed?" "I don't know. Maybe I wouldn't have worked so hard. Maybe I would have felt more secure. Or maybe you would have stopped valuing your own achievements. Maybe you would have seen yourself as my heir instead of your own person. Maybe you would have attracted people like Dylan sooner, people who wanted you for what you could give them. You don't know that would have happened." "No, but I know what did happen. You built a successful career through your own efforts. You became independent and capable. You learned the value of work. Those are gifts, Linda. Gifts I gave you by not giving you money." She wiped her eyes. "I never thought about it that way. I'm not saying I made the perfect choice. Maybe I should have told you sooner. Maybe there was a better way. But I made the choice that felt right at the time." "And now are you going to keep hiding it?" "No. I met with Margaret's investment fund. I'm putting in $2 million and joining as a mentor." "Really? Really? It's time I stopped hiding who I am. Not just for you, but for me." On our 10th day in Switzerland, Linda and I went skiing. I hadn't skied in 15 years, and Linda had never skied at all. We were terrible. We fell, constantly laughed until we couldn't breathe, and ended the day in a mountain cafe drinking hot chocolate. "I can't remember the last time we laughed like this," Linda said, her cheeks red from cold and happiness. "Me neither." "Mom, I want to ask you something, and I need you to be honest." "All right. Do you think we're going to be okay?" "Really okay?" I considered the question carefully. "I think we're going to be different. The relationship we had before, the one where I sacrificed everything, and you didn't question it, that's gone. It wasn't healthy anyway. So what do we have now? We have a chance to build something better, based on honesty and mutual respect, where I'm allowed to have my own life and you're allowed to make your own mistakes. And if I make more mistakes, then you make them, but I won't always be there to catch you. Not because I don't love you, but because you're an adult. You need to learn to catch yourself." "That's scary." "It's also freedom." She looked out at the mountains, thinking, "I like this version of us, where we're honest, where you don't have to be perfect and I don't have to be grateful." "Good, because I'm tired of being perfect and you shouldn't have to be grateful." "What should I be?" "Yourself. Fully yourself. Not the version you think I want, or the version Dylan wanted, or the version that fits into some social circle. Just you." "I don't know who that is anymore." "Then this is your chance to find out." On our last night in Switzerland, we stayed up late talking by the fire. "I need to tell you something," I said, "about the investigation." Linda tensed. "What about it?" "I hired a forensic accountant to look into Dylan's finances. I filed the creditor inquiry through my lawyer. I triggered the investigation that brought everything down." She was very still. "You deliberately destroyed his company." "I deliberately exposed his fraud. There's a difference." "Is there?" "Yes. I didn't create his crimes. I just made sure they came to light before you married him. Because you didn't trust my judgment. Because your judgment was clouded by what you thought you wanted. And I couldn't stand by and watch you marry a criminal. Even though it meant going behind my back. Even though..." She stared into the fire for a long time. Then, "Are you sorry for protecting you? No. For the way it happened a little. I wish you'd listened when I tried to tell you directly. I wish I hadn't had to go around you. But you'd do it again." "In a heartbeat." She turned to look at me. "That should make me angry." "Are you angry?" "I don't know. Part of me is. Part of me is grateful. It's confusing. Life is confusing. People are complicated. Sometimes the people who love you most are the ones who make the hardest choices." "Is that what you want me to understand?" "No, I want you to understand that love isn't always comfortable. It's not always what you want to hear. Sometimes love means doing the hard thing because it's the right thing. She nodded slowly. I think I'm starting to get that. We returned from Switzerland different people. Linda continued therapy, continued her work with nonprofit clients. She was good at it, really good. Within 3 months, she'd brought in 2 major accounts and impressed Margaret enough to get a promotion. I joined Margaret's investment fund as a partner, started mentoring 3 women entrepreneurs, a tech startup founder in Detroit, a sustainable fashion designer in Portland, and a food manufacturer in Houston. For the first time in 40 years, I wasn't hiding. Linda and I had dinner every other week, sometimes at my condo, sometimes at her apartment, sometimes at restaurants. We talked about work, about life, about her therapy sessions and my mentoring meetings. We didn't talk about Dylan. That chapter was closed. He was sentenced to 12 years in federal prison. Patricia Walker lost her house to creditors. The Walker family disappeared from Boston society. Linda didn't gloat. She'd learned that other people's downfall wasn't her victory. On a Saturday afternoon in April, Linda showed up at my condo with a man. Mom, I want you to meet someone. He was tall, wore glasses, had kind eyes. His name was Michael Chen, and he taught high school history in Somerville. Michael and I met at a nonprofit fundraiser 3 months ago, Linda said. I wanted you to meet him early this time. We had coffee, the 3 of us. Michael was genuine funny, clearly smitten with Linda. He asked about my investment work, listened carefully, asked intelligent questions. After he left, Linda stayed. What do you think? She asked nervously. I think he's nothing like Dylan. Is that good? Very good. He sees you, Linda. Not your job title, not your connections. You. I'm taking it slow this time. No rushing into engagement. No wedding planning before we're ready. Just dating, getting to know each other. That's wise. I learned from the best teacher. Who? You, Mom. You taught me that real love is patient, that it doesn't need to be proven with expensive rings or lavish parties, that it's built slowly, honestly, with mutual respect. I felt tears in my eyes. You're learning. Finally right. Better late than never. Dylan's appeal was denied. Patricia Walker sent Linda one final letter. Jennifer brought it over since Patricia no longer had Linda's address. The letter was bitter accusatory, blaming Linda for Dylan's conviction, claiming that if Linda had stood by him, had testified on his behalf, he wouldn't be in prison. Linda read it once, then tore it up. Aren't you going to respond? Jennifer asked. Why she doesn't want truth. She wants someone to blame, and I'm done being people's scapegoat. When did you get so wise? When I stopped trying to be someone I wasn't. Later that week, Linda and I met for our regular dinner. I have news, she said. Good news or bad news? Good. Margaret wants me to lead the entire nonprofit division. It's a VP position. Linda, that's wonderful. It means more responsibility, more visibility. And honestly, Mom, I'm not doing it to prove anything. I'm doing it because I want to, because the work matters to me. That's the best reason. I also wanted to tell you something else. She took a deep breath. I'm starting the process to find my birth parents. I felt my heart squeeze, but I kept my voice steady. What changed your mind? Therapy. Doctor. Mitchell helped me realize I've been running from that part of my identity instead of integrating it. Finding them doesn't erase you, Mom. It just helps me understand where I came from. Are you scared? Terrified. What if they don't want to meet me? What if they're awful people? What if they're wonderful, and you finally get answers to questions you've had your whole life? She smiled. That too. Then I support you. Whatever you find, whatever happens, I'm here. Even if I find out I have another family, even then, you'll always be my daughter, Linda. Biology doesn't change that. She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. Thank you. I'm writing this from my chalet in Switzerland. Linda is here with me along with Michael. They're engaged now, a quiet proposal on a beach in Maine. No pressure, no drama. Just 2 people who love each other deciding to build a life together. Michael asked my permission first. I told him he didn't need it. Linda makes her own decisions, but I appreciated the gesture. The wedding will be small, 50 people, a restaurant in Cambridge, nothing fancy. Linda insisted on paying for it herself. She also insisted I walk her down the aisle. You're the only parent I need, she said. We did find her birth mother. She lives in Ohio, remarried, has 3 other children. She was 17 when Linda was born and made the impossible choice to give her up so she could have a better life. Linda met her last month. It was emotional, complicated, bittersweet, but good. Her birth mother told her, "I've thought about you every day for 32 years. I'm so grateful you had Ava." They're building a relationship slowly. Linda has 3 half-siblings now, new family to get to know. But she's clear about one thing: I'm her mom. That hasn't changed and never will. As for me, I'm 69 now. I've stopped hiding who I am. My investment fund with Margaret is thriving. We've supported 15 women-owned businesses in underserved markets. 3 have already gone profitable. 2 others are showing promising growth. I mentor, I invest. I speak at conferences about smart wealth management. People know me now, not as Linda's mother, not as a quiet woman in the background, as Ava Martinez. Investor, entrepreneur, mentor. Woman who built her empire one smart decision at a time. And yes, I'm dating. His name is Robert Shaw, the private investigator I hired to research Dylan. We started talking after the trial, became friends, then something more. He's divorced, has 2 grown sons, loves hiking and old movies. He knows about my money and doesn't care. He likes me for my sense of humor and my stubbornness. Linda loves him. Michael loves him. Life is good, not perfect. I still have days where I think about the years Linda and I lost. Days where I wish I'd handled things differently. But mostly I have gratitude. Gratitude that I found Linda when she needed a mother. Gratitude that I had the courage to protect her even when she hated me for it. Gratitude that we both had the strength to rebuild. If you followed my story this far, you might be wondering what the lesson is. Here's what I learned. Love isn't about sacrifice alone. It's about boundaries too. Being a good mother doesn't mean accepting abuse. It means teaching your children that everyone, including you, deserves respect. Wealth isn't something to hide or apologize for. It's a tool. How you use it defines you, not the fact that you have it. Sometimes protecting someone means letting them fall, and sometimes it means catching them before they hit the ground. Wisdom is knowing the difference. Family isn't just biology. It's choice. It's effort. It's showing up consistently with honesty and love. And forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It means choosing to move forward without letting the past poison your future. Linda and I will never have the relationship we had before. That relationship was built on imbalance. Me giving everything, her taking without questioning. What we have now is better. A relationship between 2 adults who respect each other, who are honest with each other, who understand that love is an action, not just a feeling. She's not perfect. I'm not perfect. But we're real with each other. And that's worth more than any amount of money in my bank account. Linda married Michael on a sunny Saturday in May. The ceremony was in a garden restaurant in Cambridge, 50 guests, simple and elegant. I walked her down the aisle wearing a dress that cost more than my car, because why not? I've stopped apologizing for who I am. When the officiant asked who gives this woman to be married, I said no one gives her. She gives herself, but her family supports her choice. Linda squeezed my hand, tears in her eyes. The reception was joyful. Dancing laughter, terrible speeches from Michael's brothers. Nothing like the elaborate production Dylan's wedding would have been. This was real. This was love. At the end of the night, Linda found me on the patio. "Thank you, Mom." "For what?" "For everything. For adopting me. For sacrificing for me. For protecting me even when I didn't want to be protected. For teaching me what real love looks like." I pulled her close. "Thank you for teaching me that it's never too late to start over, that relationships can heal, that honesty matters more than perfection. We made it, didn't we?" "We did." "I love you, Mom." "I love you too, baby. Always have. Always will." She went back to her husband, to her new life, to her future. And I stood there watching her dance, knowing I'd done my job. Not perfectly, but well enough. That's all any parent can hope for.